I have been asked about this motorcycle so many times. In fact, just now as I was setting up, a guy pulled off into the grass in his truck to ask me about it. I get asked, is that electric? What's the range? How much does it cost? How much does it cost to charge? How long does it take to charge? And I've had to explain this to so many people, so many different times, that for the longest time, I wanted to make this video explaining in detail all the pros and the cons. I have so much to say that I've been writing this script for 2 years. I've been writing it for 5, so bear with me because I have a lot to say. This is a 2020 Zero FX that I bought in May of 2020, and the 5 years I've had it, I've put over 10,000 miles on it. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's kind of impressive when you consider the range, but we'll get to that. Let's start with the few and precious pros. There are things to love about this motorcycle that you just can't get on other ones. So let's start with the biggest one and then work our way down. I have owned many motorcycles over the years, and this is definitely not the best one. But I've had experiences on this motorcycle that I will never get on another one. There's something to be said about chuckle rides. Chuckle rides are those impractical, stupid secondary bikes that you can knock over and be a goober on. If you have a Honda Grom, or if you've ever been two up on one, you know what I'm talking about. But to put in perspective how fun this bike is, I own 3. My favorite one is a 2018 1290 KTM Super Duke R. And when I walk out to my 3 bikes and have to choose which one to ride, I usually go with this one. Almost any other dual sport or off-road bike can outperform this one, but this next pro specifically is the reason I love this bike so much. Why is the fact that this bike is so quiet so high on my list of pros? Is it because I'm an old man and I hate whippersnappers and they're loud motorcycles and I'm telling them to turn it down? No. I'm getting there, but no, not yet. There's something so indescribably cool about riding a motorcycle down the road and hearing nothing but road noise. If you've never ridden anything besides a combustion motorcycle, and let's be real, most likely that's the case, you've got to try it. I tell people who've never ridden an electric bike just to try it, to see what it's like, because it's such a novel experience. Here's the reason I love this motorcycle. There's some houses right there. They can't hear me. They don't even know I'm here. It's knowing that I can go in places like this and do stuff like this that opens up a whole new set of roads and possibilities. It makes this feel so much more special. Now, it's not so quiet that you hear literally nothing. Aside from road noise, you do hear a small electric whine, but a big fear of mine before I got this was that other motorists wouldn't hear me and just run into me or something. But I am shocked to report that in the 5 years and 10,000 plus miles I've done on this motorcycle, that has not happened once. I was shocked the first few times I rode by pedestrians. They would turn their head in my direction to see me before I even went by. They can clearly hear something, so it's not perfectly silent. And I feel safe on this motorcycle as far as road noise goes, but we'll get to that. I want to take a second to talk about the phenomenon of loud exhausts versus no exhaust. For some reason, a loud engine is perceived as like aggression. So if you hear like a regular dirt bike, people hear that going by and they think that guy is saying, get out of my way, coming through, get out of my way, slowpoke. And for some reason, doesn't matter who the rider is, we hear that loud noise and think, oh, he's a meanie. And on the road, that translates to other motorists not thinking you so highly, and they don't like you. That's kind of where that stigma comes from, in my opinion. But for some reason, if you're on a motorcycle that doesn't make any noise and you're driving the exact same way, somehow that's interpreted completely differently than, get out of the way, I'm coming through. You're doing the exact same thing, but because they don't hear the loud exhaust, they think, oh, what a nice guy. The next thing I love about this motorcycle is that it costs virtually nothing to ride. Depending on where you live, you may have access to some free charging stations. I do, but I've never needed to use one of them because unlike every other electric vehicle that uses a NEMA connection, this bike also uses a normal plug and can charge on any standard 15 amp outlet, so I can charge this bike anywhere. Let me introduce you to a unique ethical dilemma that I face with this motorcycle. Allegedly, I often will plug in my motorcycle into a standard outlet like this one at a gas station get a drink and a snack, hang out for an hour or so, and then continue on riding. Now, I've had people on the internet, never in real life, say, oh, well, that's stealing. And I guess technically, yeah, but what would be the difference of me plugging in my phone? That's technically stealing too. But then I have people say, oh, well, it's because you're plugging in a vehicle and you're taking X amount of energy. What is X amount of energy that makes it legal or not? I don't know. For me, I feel like if I buy something from the store and I'm a patron and I get some charge, that's acceptable. But I guess I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. Now this section may be a little lacking because I'm not a tech wizard, but I am lazy. And while I can't tell you the kilowatt hours this bike clocks its gigajoules at, I can tell you it's a small motorcycle. The battery doesn't take much energy to charge. It costs less than 75 cents to charge this motorcycle all the way, depending. So all the professionals, though, be sure to let you and me know all those details, and we can find them where they always are, in the YouTube comments. Like all electric vehicle owners, the true convenience of ownership is charging at home and knowing that when I leave from home, I'm gonna have a full charge. It's a small thing, but it's a nice thing. Aside from the upfront cost and cost whatever parts I chose to put on, I don't have to pay for anything on this motorcycle, aside from tires. I've gone through several sets of tires, but there's no oil changes, there's no engine maintenance, there's no chain maintenance. Maintenance costs are virtually non-existent. Along with being quiet, this bike is smooth. Arguably, you will not ride on anything smoother. The only way this bike could be smoother is if it had street tires. It just floats along. Seriously, guys, if you've never tried an electric motorcycle, it's worth trying it. It has no clutch, no gears. You just twist the throttle and go. And while rev matching and shifting is fun, just going is really fun too. Electric vehicles have instant power delivery and they are very torquey. Did you know that you can wheelie this thing just by flicking the throttle? There are no fumes. Duh. It is a small thing, but it's really nice when you get off the motorcycle and take your gear off to not smell like gas. You know when you're on your motorcycle in the summer sitting at a red light and thinking, why am I on an oven? This bike doesn't have that problem. I want to say durability, but I'm going to say droppability because I have no worries about dropping this bike. I have dropped and slid this bike more than all my other laydowns and crashes combined, which is not a good thing, and we will get to that. But I'm never worried about this bike. It's just a battery. It's not going to leak. There are a few moving parts. It's like dropping an SDD versus an HDD. I hope the motorcycle I just described sounds awesome, because it is. But if you're thinking that you want to go get one now, for the love of God, please don't. For all the awesome things there are about this motorcycle, there are so many more bad things. And after I explain them all to you, you should be wondering why this bike is even allowed to exist. Let's start with the biggest problem, and let's play a game. I want you to guess how many miles this thing can go on a single charge. I'll give you a hint. It's way less than you think. And even with that hint, I'm betting you'll still get it wrong. Go ahead, guess. Wrong. The total range of this bike on one charge is 40 miles. I play that game with everyone. Everyone gets it wrong. Everyone always guesses too high. No one has ever gotten that right, and they're always shocked, and they should be. 40 miles should disqualify this thing from any consideration. 40 miles is absurd. What's more absurd is Zero's website listed the range on this thing as 90 miles.
You serious?
I recall once upon a time in the very beginning when the bike was new that I was able to get 60 miles, but with battery degradation and bigger wheels, or sorry, bigger tires, the mileage goes down. But 90, never 90. If you were going downhill at 5 miles an hour, maybe, but that's just entirely unrealistic. And yes, I could get more range if I rode it less aggressively, but no, I ride the bike the way I want to ride it, and the way I ride it gets me 40 miles. This con is so bad that it gets its own separate category. Range is a fact. Range anxiety is a consequence of that fact. Picture yourself riding down the road, and instead of looking down the road, you're constantly looking at your odometer because you don't know if you have enough range to get to where you need to go. Now imagine that all the time. That's what riding this bike is like. To make matters worse, the battery percentage indicator is wrong. It's wildly inaccurate. It can say 0 and then you come to a stop and it just jumps up to 20 and you go, okay, cool. You can be cruising down the road at 50% and then, oops, sorry, you have 25% now. It's so useless that you're better off just knowing the range, for example, 40, and then just watching the trip meter and going off of that. It's so easy to take for granted the fact that you can get on a motorcycle and just go where you want to go. On this motorcycle, it's impossible. Before you get in the motorcycle, you think, do I have the range to get to where I need to go? When I get there, can I charge? Or can I charge on the way there? When I need to charge, do I have the time that it takes to get the charge that I need to get to the next place? It's so unfun to be riding and constantly thinking about and worrying about, can I, will I, am I gonna be able to? If you were to get off of your motorcycle and then hop on this one, you'd be depressed. And that's not the fault of this bike specifically, that's the consequence of any electric vehicle. Let's play another game. Guess the fastest that this bike can charge, and I'll give you the same hint, it's way worse than you think. Go ahead. Wrong. The fastest that this bike can charge is 4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours!
Sad, right? But not as sad as standard charging. That takes, you want to guess again? 11 hours.
10 hours! 10 fucking hours of the same shit!
Starting to see why this bike sucks, right? So this bike will go 40 miles and then take 4 hours to charge. And that requires a quick charger, which I put on the back usually, which is heavy. And in order to use that, you'll have to be able to draw 14 amps. Most outlets have 15 amps unless you're able to get a commercial grade one, which is 20. But in order for you to use the 14, most likely the circuit's gonna have to be free. And in order to know that, you'll have to find out about the outlets in particular first. So the odds of you being able to use a quick charger are pretty slim, and the odds of you being able to get to where you need to go in a day with an 11-hour charge are piss poor. Standard charging is fine overnight at home. That's great, that's what it's for. But when you're out for a ride, you do not have 11 hours to charge your motorcycle. You'll never use it, which basically necessitates carrying the big, heavy, expensive quick charger, which weighs, I don't know, 30 pounds. It costs damn near $1,000 to put together. So all that weight and money just to make the bike slightly less awful sucks. This should probably be the biggest con, since it should turn off anybody from ever buying one of these. But the price of one of these new today is probably $13,000. I've put $14,000 into this thing, and that's hard to defend. $14,000, at that price point, any non-electric motorcycle will completely outperform this thing. The only reason you should get this is if you have other motorcycles that you can rely on and you want to waste money. This thing does have ABS, but you can't turn it off. And holy tits! It's so annoying to ride in the dirt because you can't slide, you can't really play, you can't really do anything cool. So unless I'm just sneaking along, you're not gonna be ripping through the dirt and stuff. Along with the suspension, which is too small for its own category, the adjustability is poor, the suspension bottoms out regularly, and this is tightened all the way, which gives me headaches. So the ABS sucks off-road, it sucks. Worse than the ABS that you can't turn off is the traction control that this bike does not have, and it is dangerous. I have gone down this bike more times than all my other bikes combined. Is that my fault? Am I suddenly getting stupider? Maybe, but correlation isn't causation. I'm just saying, man, if you take this bike in any turn, in a lean, and if you touch anything, snow, water, sand, dirt, gravel, grass, leaves, tar, snakes, paint, the bike will go down. Every single time. It's so aggravating because if you took those turns on another bike and maybe you would have gotten a little butt pucker moment, this bike will just go down. Watch what happens to the rear wheel when I have the front bar fully locked to one side and I have very gentle throttle. I mean, I know the throttle in this thing pretty well, but it wants to give it all the throttle. It doesn't modulate, there's no traction control. So as soon as there's loss of traction, boom! If that happens in a low speed turn with the bars fully locked, or God forbid, you're going above 15 miles an hour and you're in a lean and that rear tire side doesn't have traction anymore, it will just go out from underneath you. The most recent crash I had on this bike was the worst crash I ever had on this bike. I lost skin, I had a long recovery, it sucked. I was so baffled and confused when it happened because it's an intersection and a turn that I've made many times on many different bikes over the years, never had a problem. The bike gaslit me to thinking I did something wrong. And while I do believe that riders can rise above environmental factors and things that the motorcycle is incapable of doing, whatever, it made me go back to the intersection, look at it and investigate, try to figure out what happened. So here's what I think is happening. When you go into a turn and you have a nice entry speed and you're maintaining that through the turn, as soon as that rear tire loses traction, and even for the slightest moment, if it touches water or something and causes that rear tire to spin faster than the front, that instant power delivery and torque sends that power immediately to the rear and spins it up like that. There's no traction control to save you, and the moment you realize that you've lost traction and you've released power from the front throttle, it's too late. It has already been delivered. That rear tire shoots up like a top and spins out, and the bike will go down no matter what you do. And thinking back, every single time I've gone down this bike, that's exactly what happens. And I'd be really curious to see that tested in a controlled environment. I'm not eager to test it. And now whenever I take any turn on this motorcycle, I'm always on edge, always watching the service conditions and just dreading that there'll be the tiniest, stupidest, smallest thing that's gonna make the rear tire lose traction for even a second, because it will put me on my ass. Let's start with battery degradation. So if you're not familiar with the term, batteries will get worse over time. The capacity or memory will go down. The performance goes down, so the top speed and the torque goes down. It actually overheats faster too. And I've certainly noticed that in the 2 batteries I've had. This is the second one, and I might come back to that later, but we will come back to overheating. The battery will overheat if you go too fast, use too much torque, or if you just have too much fun. In my experience, if you go up to 65 miles an hour, the battery won't overheat. If you exceed that, at some point, the temperature will rise to a point where the bike overheats. That magic number for overheating, I've noticed, is 242 degrees Fahrenheit. When that happens, it'll throttle off and bring it down to 35 miles an hour or something until the temperature comes back down to a safe temperature, which I think is 172. Something else worth knowing that you may have been wondering about is, how does the battery do in the cold? Badly. I've noticed the performance go down as much as 50% when I ride below zero, and I do ride below zero sometimes. So if it's hot out, the bike will overheat. If it's cold, you lose performance. Either way, this bike is a bit of a prissy bitch. This is the worst motorcycle side stand I've ever seen. So what happens is, when you sit on the motorcycle, the frame presses against the side stand and presses it down about 4 inches. So whenever you're into a left lean, that side stand always makes contact with the ground. And I've been grinding into this thing for a long time, until finally, to fix it, what I had to do was grind into the frame and cut away part of the frame to allow clearance, so that now the side stand won't drop when you put it down. Also, I don't know why, the side stand's length is too long. In order to put the side stand up, you have to lean the motorcycle to the right to allow clearance for that side stand to swing up all the way. It's very annoying. Also, this side stand has been bending over time. You can kind of see the bend right here. I appreciate that it's a solid aluminum chunk, but I've noticed the motorcycle leaning too far to the left on the stand, and that's how I realized it was bent. I've bent it back into place, but it just over time keeps bending. So in about 3 different ways, this is horrible. This is so annoying. This should be number 1. This seat holds water in a very specific and annoying way. It could have been days since it rained. It could be sitting in the sun for days. But if you come out and sit on the bike, there will be water right here at the lowest point of the seat on the side of the bike that the bike leans to, and you will get a wet spot on your ass. The only way to get the water out is to sit on it repeatedly and soak up all the water with your left butt cheek. I've never seen paint fade on a vehicle so quickly. The bike was tan when I originally bought it, and I had those parts painted matte black, and those parts look fine, but all the rest of the stock black parts look sun bleached and faded, even though it spends most of its life protected from the sun. One time I had to bring my motorcycle into the shop because the headlights decided to just stop working. Never had that problem on a motorcycle before. Also, this motorcycle, an electric motorcycle, comes with no LEDs. I replaced all the bulbs with LEDs, and these are not the original bulbs. The original bulbs were very poor. As you can see, this left side is the low beam, and the right side is the high beam. This motorcycle does have a high beam trigger, but if you want both lights on at the same time, you'll have to use the trigger, because if you just use the high beam switch, the low beam turns off. Here's something else I've never had happen on a motorcycle. One day I put air in both the tires, and then later that day, both tires were rapidly getting flat. And I figured, well, it's unlikely, but the best explanation is that both tire valves are bad. Sure enough, my mechanic confirmed they were both bad, replaced them, and then it was fine. There's a part here that holds the battery into the frame, and one day when I was riding, it just fell off. I wasn't able to find it, and it took a lot of money and time to get a replacement in and the lock that's meant to hold it into place. Now you would think that since this is an electric motorcycle and since modern motorcycles have USB ports to adapt your electronics for charging, that this would have that, right? You obviously haven't been paying attention to the video and you would be wrong. If you want to charge anything on this motorcycle, there is an optional cigarette lighter adapter, and it's not cheap. It's also not waterproof, so if it gets rained on, it will become corroded. And if you want to connect anything, I had to buy a USB cigarette lighter adapter. Speaking of the cigarette lighter, if you want any aftermarket parts for this bike, there really aren't any. You're going to have to get them through Zero's very limited catalog of parts that are not very good. I bought the crash bars for this bike and they were ugly. They come straight out to here and they bent when I went down. I've gone down on other crash bars and I never managed to bend them, but Zero's bars bent. I made this myself. It's just a bar that goes all the way through with these pucks screwed on. Much cheaper, much more efficient, and they're not ugly. That top rack is also Zero's, and yeah, that's a good demonstration of the quality of parts I've gotten from them. This motorcycle has broken down and stopped working inexplicably many times. It has been a paperweight for many months of its life because sometimes you turn the key, no response. Plug it in, no response. It just ceases to work. And it's been to the shop many times to get fixed. Who knows how? I know one time it was fixed by installing an update. No motorcycle I've ever had has had the problem of just choosing to not work one day. Right now, fun fact, it won't charge past 75%. It just won't do it. I don't know why. It's a brand new battery. This battery has a little over 2,000 miles on it, and it's just like, nah, bro. And the reason it has another battery is because of the most recent trip it took to the shop. It was in the, that's a long story, but I really have to share that with you. It's been unacceptable, inexcusable. This bike should not be allowed to be sold to the public. This is the part of the video that I did not want to make, but I think it's the most important. This is my experience with customer service. So I mentioned that the bike has been a paperweight for many months out of its life. It's been out of commission several times. And this most recent time, it was broken for 1 whole year straight. And that on its own is remarkable, but I wanted to share some of what having to deal with the Zero was like. So I have 3 different phone calls. That was about 45 minutes in total that I've cut down to about 6.5 minutes. And I think you can get a good idea of what was wrong with the bike and the process that I went about trying to get it fixed. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm calling about a motorcycle that I have.
What's going on?
My local dealer who has it called me to tell me what's going on and suggested that I call Zero to get more information.
What?
The bike stopped working 7 months ago now, and it's been at the shop for that long.
Okay.
And I believe a tech only just came out yesterday. And please let me know if I have any of this wrong, if you have that there. But more or less, not just the battery has failed, but all of the electrical components required to make that thing run. I think that was the MBB, the DC-DC converter, and the dash.
October 20th, the diagnostic indicated that the DC-DC and MBB needed to be replaced.
Sometime after that, I think the DC-DC and the MBB were ordered. Then another diagnostic came through and said that the battery needed to be replaced, or whatever you call it. You can call it the battery, you call it the power
Pack.
Power pack, yeah. So then, if I recall correctly, then the power pack was replaced because the DC-DC and the MBB didn't fix the issue.
Correct.
Okay. And then when that was put in, then the dash went out.
That is my understanding from what I can see on the case.
Okay. My mechanic called and said that Zero said, I'm going to have to pay for the DC-DC converter, the MBB, and the dash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what I'm calling about because, I mean, first of all, those 2 initial parts, the converter and the MBB, weren't even needed. Apparently that was not an accurate diagnostic. I could just as well, to my understanding, have my old ones put in. I don't need the ones that I was told that I needed. And then the dash went out as a result of the new battery.
What I can do is I can create a task for my manager to, review this and reach out to you about possible solutions.
Yeah, if that's the right way to go, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, that would definitely be the next step.
Okay.
My manager, his name is Topher. I'm not sure when he'll be able to review this. He is super busy, but you know, he does take these concerns very seriously.
Thank you for your help. I really do appreciate it. And sorry to
Yeah.
bring up something so confusing and potentially contentious.
No, yeah, I'm sorry that you're dealing with this situation. That's really unfortunate.
It's first world problems.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, thank you again. I do appreciate you, and I hope you have a good day.
Yeah, thanks. You too. We'll talk soon.
Alrighty, bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Hi, Zero Motorcycles. This is Katie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm calling to follow up on information on my motorcycle. Hopefully there's a case number attached to my account.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any recent cases on your motorcycle. What's currently going on?
The last thing that I was told was that the manager, or the manager, I don't know who, a manager would call me back, and I haven't gotten a call, so I'm just following up.
Okay, and what exactly needs repair on the motorcycle?
This is where the case number would be useful, but I think I may have written notes. Let me check really quick.
Well, sir, hang on one moment. Let me put you on a brief hold and see if I can get our manager on the line right now.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
My name is Topher. I'm the customer experience manager of Zero.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm good. Is this Walter?
Yes, sir.
Hey, how are you doing, Walter?
I'm alright.
What can I help you with today?
I guess I was under the impression there was a case number, written records, but the lady I just spoke to couldn't find anything. Would you be able to find any?
Yes, the most recent case was opened in October of last year.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Okay, so where are we at on things now? What are you looking to take care of? What are we looking to do here?
If it won't confuse you, I'll just go over my understanding of the events in 30 seconds. If you can kind of retain this and see if
Sure,
this checks
yeah,
up
then I
with
can
what your
verify.
technicians have. Yeah. So
let's go
the
for it.
bike, for no reason, completely stops working, not working, dead. Goes to the shop. Zero says we need to send a DC-DC converter and an MBB. Both of those get put in the bike. Does not resolve anything.
Didn't fix it.
Then they send a battery.
And
And the moment it turns on with that new battery, the dash is at that moment fried. And I don't know if the new DC was also fried, but because those three components were put in the bike, it fried the dash. So now I'm being asked to pay for the
Gotcha.
DC, the MBB, and the dash.
I don't think you got charged for the power pack, though. That should have been a warranty.
Yes, the battery's under warranty.
Okay, understood. That makes sense now.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I can do. Like I said, I have a meeting with our technician team here in about 30 minutes. So I'll cover this with the technician that was on site. I'll get some clarification with him. I'll make sure that sequence of events matches up. It should. I don't have any concern with that. So if there were parts replaced in the bike that did not fix the issue or were, thereafter quickly failed, I'm sure there's something we could do here that might be that might give me some recourse for goodwill coverage on those things. I just have to get some clarification and nail that down with that.
Yeah, thank you. I would appreciate you checking because, yeah, just checking. And before I let you go,
Sure. Yeah.
I don't need to be called back immediately, but I called last month about this, and I was told a manager would call me back, and that was a month ago. So I'm following up right now.
Oh, dude, sorry about that. Let me give you my number.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Here. All right, Walter. I will definitely give you a call back by the end of the day on Friday. I'll try and get it done tomorrow if at all possible. I'm going to have the conversation this afternoon, so I don't imagine it's going to be an issue.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course, Walter. You have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye. I did not get a call back. But when the bike was eventually fixed, it was paid for. The shop said Zero paid for it. I was like, oh, awesome, great. But I think you can understand if I wasn't really excited because I was without the bike for a year. And for all I know, it'll happen again. I have no faith in the thing. So, yeah, that was a long deal. And that's how that went. If this bike is so awful, why do I love it? Well, I have proper motorcycles that I can ride, and I'm an odd nut, and I can take advantage of the two things it's really good at. But for the rest of you sane individuals, there is absolutely no reason you should ever own this motorcycle. It is awful. and I love it.